Hello, so I wanted to do a video today on reverse percentages. So if we go to a couple of questions that you need to be able to spot the difference between. The left-hand side is a percentage of an amount question. And this is one of the easier types of questions, and you should be comfortable with those before you try and have a look at these reverse percentage questions. So in the question on the left, you are asked to find 10% of 200. Now this 200 is the original amount. However, with a reverse percentage question, you are not given the original amount. So even though this reverse percentage question looks quite similar, this 200, we are not finding 10% of 200 here. What this question is saying is that 10% of a question mark is 200. So they're slightly different questions, and then you'd have to find the value of whatever this question mark is. So I've got three examples to go through. Let's start with the first one. Now, you are given the number 290, and we are told that that is 10% of the amount that we're looking for. So we need to work backwards and try and find the number. So the first thing you need to realize is that the original amount, the amount that we're trying to find, will always be 100%. Will always be 100%. So we want to find out what that 100% is worth. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to say, okay, so 10% of a number is 290. 10% goes nicely into 100, and remember, it's that 100% that we're looking for. So to get from 10 to 100, you are going to multiply by 10. It's just coincidence that these two numbers are the same. We're just saying how many tens are there in 100, and because that's 10, that's why we're multiplying this by 10. So I also need to multiply this by 10 as well, which would give me 2,900. So the original number was 2,900. That's the first question. Second one is quite similar. We're told that 55% of a number is 495. Some people would look at that question and just find 55% of 495, but this is a reverse percentage question. So I'm going to start this the same way. 55% is equal to 495. And remember, I want to find out what 100% is. Because that will be my original number. Now, unlike the last question, 55 doesn't go nicely into 100. So it's a good idea to think of a factor of both 55 and 100, a common factor. It doesn't necessarily need to be the highest common factor, just a common factor. So if I'm looking at 55 and 100, I can think the highest common factor I can think of is 5. So I'm going to find 5%. And to do that, to get from 55 to 5, I'm dividing that by 11. So whatever you do to one side, you also need to do to the other. So I'm going to do 495 divided by 11, and that tells me that 5% of this original number was 45. Now, I've got 5%. From here, it just becomes a question like the last one. So if 5% is 45, I want to figure out what I need to multiply 5 by to get to 100. And if you didn't know, you could always do 100 divided by 5, and that's 20. So I do the same over here as well. So 45 times 20 is going to give me 900. You could always check your answer. So this number is 900. You could always check your answer by finding 55% of 900, and it should come to 495. Okay, now we're going to look at a couple of worded problems. So there's a couple of ways to look at these sorts of questions. I'll go through both of them. So remember, the original amount is always going to be 100%. Okay, so a car's price was increased by 15%, and the new price of the car was £10,752.50, and we have to find the original cost of the car. So the easier method we're going to do this. So the original price of the car, was 100%. We don't know what that is yet, but we know it was 100% of the original price. It has been increased by 15%. Let's get rid of this line for a minute. Therefore, the new value I have, because it has been increased, is 100 plus 15, or 115%. We have therefore this £10,752.50, £10,752.50, that represents 115%. So all I'm going to do now is exactly the same as I did before. So I want to get to 100%. So I'm going to look at 115 and 110, and I'm going to think of a number that goes into it. We did 5% last time, which would work again here, but let's say I didn't spot it was 5. I know that 1 goes into 115 and 100. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work backwards to find out what 1% is. So 115 divided by 115 would give me 1%. So I need to do the same over this side as well. So I'm going to do 10,752.5 divided by 115. That tells me that 1% of the number, this number that I'm trying to find, is £93.50. So now, get from 1% back to 100%, I need to times it by 100. And if I do that, that tells me that the original cost of the car was £9,350. £9,350. Okay, the slightly more tricky method, but it will allow you to get to some more difficult questions, is you still need to work out, to start with, that we have 115% of the original amount. This £10,752.50 represents 115% of the amount that we're trying to find. Now, if you convert this to a decimal, we're going to divide it by 100 and convert to a decimal. This gives you 1.15. Now this means that this number that I'm trying to find, which I'm going to call x, I've multiplied it by 1.15, so 1.15 times x gives you £10,752.50. So because I want to find out what x is, because x would be the original value of the car, I need to divide this side of the equation by 1.15. So I'm going to divide this side by the equation by 1.15 as well. So if I did £10,752.50 divided by 1.15, that gives me the cost of the car as £9,350. The second method that I've just gone through there is a slightly more advanced method, and when you get the hang of it, it's a lot quicker. But the first method, the easier method over there on the left, will work as well. Okay, one more example. So you need to watch out for these sorts of questions, because what happened with the last question is that the price was increased. Sometimes this one is in a sale and it has 40% off the original amount, and the new sale price was £21.60. So I'll do both methods again. The first thing you're going to need to do is think, what percentage of the original amount do I have? The original amount was 100%. This time it has been decreased by 40%. Therefore, to find out the percentage that I've been given, this percentage here, or what percentage that amount represents of the original amount, I'm doing 100% take away 40%. Therefore, that £21.60 represents 60% of the original amount. So now I can set up my problem like I've been doing before. 60% is equal to £21.60. I want to find 100%. 60, there's no number, no whole number I can multiply 60 by to get to 100. So I'm going to think of another number, a factor that goes into 60 and 100. You could use 1, you could use 2, 4, 5, 10, 20. I'm going to use 20. So if I find out what 20% is, I can multiply that by 5 and then get to 100. So to get from 60% to 20%, I've divided that by 3. So I'm going to do the same down here as well. And that will tell me £21.60 divided by 3 gives me £7.20. And then I'm going to multiply that by, what do I need to multiply 20 by to get to 100? That's 5. So I'm going to do the same over here as well. £7.20 times 5 gives you £36. As always, you could check that by finding 60% of 36 to see if it gets you to the original amount, sorry, the new sale price of £21.60. Okay, the other method, the slightly more advanced method, I'll do the same question again, but with that method. So it's still going to be based on this 60. That £21.60, remember, represents 60% of the original amount. So if I did 60% as a decimal, we're dividing that by 100. That tells me 0.6. That means I will have done 0.6 lots of x. Remember, x is the original amount. Is equal to £21.60. So then if I just divide this side by 0.6 and divide this side by 0.6, that will tell me that x is the same as £36, which matches up with what we've got over here as well. So either method works, either method is completely acceptable. The one on the right is slightly more advanced and it will allow you to access the more tricky questions as well if you can get to grips with that one. Okay, as I've done previously, I have included, or I've made a question generator. This one generates lots of questions. You will need to click enable content in a yellow ribbon that appears at the top, otherwise when you open the file, otherwise the buttons will not work. You've got the drop down menu over here, so you can select just the first type of question and have practice some of those. Or question type 2, 3 or 4, and when you got the hang of all of them, you can try a mixture of them where I don't tell you what level of difficulty the question is. You can get the answers one at a time, or you can get them all at once. I haven't done any where well, for type 1 and 2 I didn't do any where the number you were given is a decimal, but you can include the decimals. Get a few questions that include decimals there as well. That's it. I hope it was useful. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.